Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this pistol that you see right here on the table and that you guys saw throughout the intro. So basic overview of it is that it's mostly BCM. In fact, it's all BCM with the exception of this SB Tactical SBA3 brace here. And that really was the catalyst, this little part back here behind the rest of the pistol that you guys see here. So these came out a few months ago, and immediately when I first held one, I think I did a video on my B channel the day I got it in, I was like, I mean, this is a game changer. People always say, oh, this is a game changer for the industry. Rarely is that actually true. This absolutely is. Obviously, it's a brace, so it can be on a pistol without having to register it as an SBR. It's adjustable in terms of length of pull, as you guys just saw there. It's got some QD points there on the end, and really, it's just super ergonomic. And obviously, you can put your hand through it should you need to do so if you want to fire it one-handed, which is the intended design. But with current ATF rulings, you can also fire it from your shoulder without issues. So this thing just sort of makes what would have previously been a short-barreled rifle. It makes it easier rather to get that capability without having to go through all the hassle. And a lot of folks live in states where you can't do that. So this also gives you that option as well. So very, very cool piece of kit. And what I designed, or what I dreamed up in my head when I saw this, was like the ultimate truck gun, right? So that's what this is, at least as I conceive it anyway in my mind. So the heart and soul of it is going to be this BCM 11.5-inch barrel here, or rather upper. It's got the hammer forged barrel, chrome lined, 1 in 7 twist, MP, HP tested. It is just one of the best barrels out there in terms of materials, specs, QC. At least that's what most folks think. But what we're going to do first, before we get into all the details on it, is go outside and check the accuracy on the range, at least with this scope on there anyway, and see what we can get in terms of groups down range with this type of package, and then come back out here and get into those nitty-gritty details. We're going to do a quick check of the accuracy of this barrel here, really the whole rifle overall, I suppose. I debated throwing a higher magnification scope on there and doing this at 100 yards, but really, since it's sort of like a truck gun concept here with the 1-4 on there, figured we'd leave it on there and show you what this type of package, I suppose, can do. So we have a target at 50 yards rather than 100 normally, and that's really just, not that this system can't do 100 yards, but if you're trying to get the smallest holes on paper, with this guy behind it, I'm the limiting factor, my eyes and all that stuff with this scope. So we're just gonna do it at 50 yards here. We got a few loads to run through it just to get kind of an idea of what it might like. First up, we have the Gorilla ammunition. This is their 77 grain load. It's 2-3 chambering, and it's got the Match King bullet in there. So we'll see how it does. Alright, next up is going to be a light for caliber load. This is the Browning with the BBX varmint expansion 50 grain bullet in there. Again, it's going to be a 2-2-3 chambering on that one. So some light stuff here in this barrel. Last up, we have some 69 grain. This is the Winchester 2-2-3 chambering again with the Match King hollow point bolt tail 69 grain bullet. I think I said that twice. Either way, now you know. Just wanted to really emphasize it. And we'll see how this one does. Go check them out. First up there, we had that 77 grain Gorilla stuff, and that right there is measuring just under an inch center to center, about let's say 7/8 of an inch. Of course, we have to double it for MOA at this distance. Then we came over here with that 50 grain stuff. Light for caliber, we're right at, yep, right at an inch on the dot with that one. Then we came down here with the 69 grainer. Looks pretty good except for that one. Oh well. We count them all here. And on that one there, we're right at an inch as well. Now, again, guys, we're using the BCM trigger on there, so no Geissele, nothing fancy. But all of those averaging right around 2 MOA, maybe a little bit lower. I'm pretty confident that with some better glass and a better trigger, that barrel's capable, rather, of tighter groups. But really, for the sort of truck gun concept, if you will, all of these groups are perfectly acceptable in my opinion. Now that we've seen the accuracy, we'll get into sort of the details and sort of work our way back here on this pistol. We do have an A1 flash hider out there. This does come, if you buy a Bravo Company upper anyway, it's going to come with a gunfighter compensator here. This is a hybrid of a compensator and a flash hider. Now, I tend to prefer, particularly on shorter barrels, just flash hiders, particularly in rifles or pistols chambered at 5.56 rather. The reason is the recoil is not that terrible anyway, and the blast that you're getting from a shorter barrel and just the sound signature and everything else like that is kind of a lot compared to something that's going to be longer, say 16 inches or something like that. And I really do prefer a flash hider to cut down on that. It also cuts down, of course, on the signature in low light situations, which is also good. Not that there's anything wrong with this. This is a very good combination muzzle device. I just prefer it if I'm going to use it on something a little bit longer. So we'll set that off to the side. That's why I use that though. Moving back, again, we have an 11.5 inch hammer forged barrel, chrome line, 1 in 7 twist, MP, HP, we mentioned all that. It has a government profile on there. So down here on the gas block, it's gonna be 0.75 inches, the journal anyway. BCM does some interesting things there with their gas blocks, and I know it's sort of controversial if you guys read on the forums about them. But basically, we have a steel gas block on there. BCM doesn't pin them, and a lot of folks wish they did. But BCM uses one deep dimple all the way into the barrel, and then they use a very high temp thread locker on there. Now, I have plenty of BCM uppers with that type of configuration. I've shot them a lot. I've got them really hot. I've never had a gas block even think about moving at all, and in fact, I've never read about it either. And I get a lot of comments from viewers and things like that all the time. Never heard of it happening, so just something to point out there. Another thing to point out, just kind of the small things that tend to be the case with BCM, is that they don't actually seat the gas block against the gas block journal. They keep it spaced out a little bit, and that's actually how it's designed to be. A lot of folks will just commonly push it up against the back of the edge there. Honestly, I tend to do that too, just simply because it's easier, but the correct spec is the way that BCM does it right there with that little gap right there. Just kind of a little fun fact for you. We also have our MCMR handguard on there. It's a 10-inch M-lock handguard. We have the M-lock at 3, 6, 9 o'clock position, as well as at intermediate positions. So that way you can really mount accessories wherever you want. So in terms of accessories, what we chose to put on this particular build is going to be the Magpul Pro offset sights. They're excellent. With this particular build, I didn't really kind of spare expense. Sometimes I do. On this one, that wasn't the case. You guys will see a future pistol build that's going to be much more budget friendly than this. But this one was sort of the ultimate truck gun. So that's what we went with here, the Magpul offsets. And I like using that when you're using a low power variable optic, because if you have it at the 4 setting, let's say, which we'll get to this optic here in a second, and you need to get something close, that offset gives you that ability to very quickly do it without having to spin the ring. So the Magpuls are some of the best out there. There's other good ones though, for sure. We also have the BCM offset mount here for M-lock accessories, so it'll mount up on anything M-lock, but of course it mounts up on the MCMR as well, since BCM makes it. And we have the Enforce Gen 3 WML on there. A lot of folks will, say that they've had some issues with earlier Enforce WMLs. I don't really hear too much bad about the Gen 3, so it seems that some of the durability issues they may have had are resolved. Moving back on the handguard, back here towards the receiver, I do have a quick detach sling swivel point here. It's M-lock capable, so you can put it in there, take it off, put it on as you see fit, but I do like it. I know it's sort of controversial out there in the AR-15 and rifle world in general, but I tend to like my forward swivel point a little bit further back. Some guys say it's best to really run them way out there. I tend to like mine back because it's easier, in my opinion, to transition between shoulders, and it's just not, it's less likely that you're going to end up getting choked out by your sling if you have it further back. Now you do lose a little bit of stability when you're running and stuff like that. I get it, it's a compromise, but that tends to be how I like it. Now the MCMR has a really solid lockup system that BCM has been using for years on their KMRs and then their QRF handguards as well. It's not going anywhere. BCM, again, uses that high temp thread locker on there. And even without it, you don't need thread locker on there, but they put it on there anyway. But even without it, it's a super, super snug fit there on the barrel nut. And then of course we have this little piece here that's gonna prevent the handguard from going forward or turning I mean, super solid. The cross bolts here, again, interface with the barrel nut, so there's just no way that rail can move around without everything coming undone. Again, I have a full review of the handguard if you guys are interested. Moving on back to the scope here, this is the Trijicon AccuPower 1-4. So in terms of low power variable optics, one thing you get with a 1-4 versus a 1-6 or a 1-8, generally speaking, is that you're going to get a much more forgiving eye box, and it's going to be lighter weight. So that was sort of my mindset here with this. Now, why didn't I go with a red dot? Well, my thought, again, for a sort of truck gun build is that I drive around here in rural Carolina a good bit, and unlike a home defense scenario where you're typically going to be facing something 25 yards and in, where I'm at driving around often, sometimes things are further out than that. So the 1-4 gives you the ability, to shoot close up on that 1 power and have a very usable reticle. And of course, on 4 power, it gives you the capability to see, identify, discriminate against targets at further distance, as well as engage them. So this one here has the BDC reticle. It's pretty close if you zero it. Again, this is my findings anyway. If you zero it about 1 inch high at 100 yards, it stays pretty close out to about 300. After that, it kind of doesn't work well with the BDC. It's just something you have to understand as a shooter and know your dope for your gun and your ammo. Both the upper and the lower are going to be from Bravo Company, so 7075 T6 aluminum, hard coat anodized per mil spec. The one thing that's sort of not mil spec about this lower receiver here is that it has an enhanced mag well. It's flared, which aids in reloading, and really, I've said it in a million videos, I really think all ARs in 2018 and beyond, there's no reason why you shouldn't have a flared mag well. It doesn't reduce the strength. It probably doesn't add much cost, and it's just much more usable from the shooter's perspective. It has the Bravo Company lower parts kit in there with the PNP trigger, which has a nickel-based lubricant applied to it on the actual parts themselves, so it makes the trigger very clean. However, it gives you the same sort of mil-spec reliability and mil-spec feel. It's just a cleaner break than what you'd get with most mil-spec triggers. And then, of course, continuing on back, we do have our Bravo Company charging handle. Now, this one here is the medium size. It's the Mod 4B. Me personally, in terms of AR-15 charging handles, I like a little bit of enhancement like we have here with this, or say like the Geissele Airborne charging handle, but I don't like them too big because then they end up getting caught on things, sort of Murphy's Law there in that regard. So it's sort of a happy medium in terms of Goldilocks porridge and all that stuff. So just right. Continuing to move back, castle nut here is staked in 2 different places. Again, BCM, they just do the little things right, which is one of the reasons a lot of people look for them. And then we have our plate here on the end with the QD attachment point as well. So we have several different ways to set up your quick detach slings should you want to on this type of pistol. Again, we have it up down the handguard, back of the receiver, and then back here on the brace. On an AR-15, the barrel and the bolt carrier group kind of are the heart and soul of the rifle. We already touched on the barrel. Really, it's an excellent barrel and shoots well, as you guys saw. The bolt carrier group from BCM is really iconic at this point. It's generally regarded as one of the best options on the market, period. A few reasons for that, but the biggest is going to be Bravo Company's quality control and specs. So we'll get into the specs here a little bit. The bolt carrier, or rather the bolt, is made from 158 Carpenter steel. It's HP and MP tested. It's shot peened as well, and it's marked so you guys can see that. And also on our extractor, again, it's mil spec in terms of materials. They have the O-ring insert on there to aid in reliable extraction. That tends to be optional on some guns, and really that could be a full-length video itself. But on short barrels, I definitely like to have the O-ring in there. Me personally, I think it does aid in reliable feeding. The carrier itself is made of 8620 steel. It has very good staking on there. It's chrome lined and has a parkerized or phosphate finish rather. They do make these in ion bond, and I covered that in a previous video, but if you want a different finish on there, they do offer that from Bravo Company. So that is that. Moving on back, one more major piece to discuss here on this pistol, and that is going to be our receiver extension. It's not a typical 6-position, 70-75 mil spec receiver. It's actually the A5 receiver extension. So why go with the A5? Well, again, that could probably be a dedicated video onto itself. But the A5, generally speaking, from a user's perspective, gives you a smoother recoil impulse. If you're shooting like a mid-length 16-inch rifle, you're probably not going to notice it, at least in my experience. But when you get down to stuff that's a little bit shorter and with a sharper recoil impulse, it does tend to smooth it out a little bit. And definitely, it's worked really well. I have it on several different pistols and rifles, and no complaints at all. Yes, a 6-position will work just fine, but this just makes the impulse a little bit smoother. And then talking about recoil impulse, one thing I negated to say up front here on the 11.5-inch barrel, is why go with an 11.5 versus other lengths. So I have a dedicated video on AR-15 barrel length, but the big difference between like a 10.5 or anything shorter than that is you're going to get increased dwell time with the carbine length gas system. So that dwell time, again, it's just going to kind of give you more room for error in all different operating conditions, whether it be extreme cold, extreme hot, a weapon system that is very dirty, a weapon system that is clean and well lubed, different ammo types. So whether you're shooting like Tula 223 or like M855, hotter stuff in 5.56, it's going to give you just that more flexibility to run smoothly throughout the gamut of different operational environments that you may find yourself shooting a pistol or a rifle in. So that is one of the advantages over an 11.5 versus a 10.5 or anything shorter. It just gives you a little bit more room for error, in my opinion, for extreme reliability. So that's pretty much it, guys. I know there's a lot going on here, but this is kind of, again, what I dreamt up for the ultimate truck guy. I think it would fulfill that role very, very well. It's going to give you good firepower, a good capability to reach out, but it's not going to be huge. It's not going to take up a lot of space in your truck or car, and it's not cheap either. We'll have the price down below, or I think we rolled in during the video some screenshots of things you could pick this stuff up at. It's not the cheapest for sure, but it's pretty awesome, and shooting it has been a great time. And if you guys have any questions about the build, by all means, post down below in the comment section. As always, you can post over at my Facebook page as well. That, generally speaking, is the best way to get in touch with me. And over there, I also post deals to all this stuff on sale with coupon codes and exclusive stuff for folks that follow me over there. So if you're not following me over there and you want to pick up some cool gear, not just this, but everything that we cover here on the channel, definitely check it out. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. We're losing light here, so we're going to close the video out. Hope to see all of you in the next video. Off the trigger, safety on. All right, what'd you think about that?
A little bit more kickback.
A little bit more kick, she said.
But not too much.
Right.
Not too much.
Cool.